Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the next class of Appreciating Prose. So, in the last class, we have started with In Praise of the Humble Comma by Piquire, and we have discussed about various functions of the punctuation marks and how it conveys the attitude of the society and how we have seen that how he was comparing punctuation to comma to God, and he has already also used analogy of traffic road signs, and we have seen how he was speaking about the cultures and how punctuation is associated with cultures. He has used examples of Spaniards, Chinese, and also he spoke about 60s America and the writer Tom Wolfe. And now we are continuing with the essay. Just few more paragraphs we have. So let's start. Yet punctuation is something more than a culture's birthmark. It scores the music in our minds, gets our thoughts moving to the rhythm of our hearts. Punctuation is more than the culture's birthmark also. It actually composes the music in our minds. It gets our thoughts moving. And how does it do that? It actually gets our thoughts moving to the rhythm of our hearts. Through punctuations, we can convey our heart feelings. That's what he's saying. Punctuation is the notation and the sheet music of our words. See, notation helps the musician or the singer to convey or to express the music in the right format, because notations helps the person, the helps the singer about the duration of the sound or the absence of the sound. Like that, notation and how notation works in the sheet music, same way the punctuation also helps the person to get the thoughts moving to the rhythm. Our feelings also have some sort of rhythm. Sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is sad, sometimes we need to raise our voice, sometimes need to be slow down in our voice, and punctuation helps us to convey it in the right way. Punctuation is the notation. It is visual representation of music through certain symbols. Punctuation is the notation in the sheet music of our words, telling us when to rest or when to raise our voices. It acknowledges that the meaning of our discourse as of any symphonic compositions. Notations helps the person of symphonic compositions. Same way, punctuations also helps in our communication to when to rest or when to raise our voices. Hope it's clear. Then it acknowledges that the meaning of our discourse as of any symphonic composition lies not in the units but in the pauses, the pacing and the phrasing. And he says that the punctuations, through punctuations, we can convey the feelings. And he says that for meaning of any text or meaning of any discourse or meaning of any symphonic compositions doesn't lie in the units, but it lies in the pauses. Where we stop, that conveys one meaning. If you didn't stop, it conveys a different meaning. Lies not in the units but in the pauses, but the meaning lies also in the paces and pace, and also the meaning lies in the phrasing. All these things, just not only the units or not only the words that give you meanings, but what else that gives you meaning, but the pauses, the pace, and the phrasing, the speed also helps you to get the actual meaning. That means actual feeling can be conveyed through punctuations. Punctuation is the way one bats one's eyes, lowers one's voice, or blushes demurely. Through punctuations, actually the feeling can be conveyed through when a punctuation is there. Maybe it can be reflected in the person's eyes. In the quick movement of the eyes, maybe the person can understand the feeling by the use of punctuation. When a person is standing and talking something, and The meaning can be conveyed through the eyes also by the help of punctuations. And lowers one's voice, a person lowers one's voice through punctuation. That means it helps to slow down the pace, or blushes demurely, or by the use of certain punctuations it also helps to the meaning or the feeling of this blushes or shyness or coyness can also be conveyed. Punctuation adjusts the tone and color and volume till the feeling comes into perfect focus. The feeling can be conveyed aptly through punctuations. And the feelings not discussed exactly, but distaste, not lust or like, but love. Through punctuations, these feelings can be conveyed. Distaste can be conveyed. Also, love can be conveyed. So we are moving into the next paragraph. Next function of the punctuation. Punctuation, in short, gives us the human voice and all the meanings that lie between the words. Meaning, again, he is specifying on meanings. Meanings can be conveyed, and it gives us the human voice. He is going to give you certain examples. Then you will be able to understand it very fast. You ain't young, are you? This sentence, remember, see, there is a question mark, but the question mark is there and it conveys a meaning in a decent way or in a proper way. You ain't young, ain't you? A proper way of communication is there, but when you drop that question mark, it becomes a teasing, isn't it? Loses its innocence when it loses the question mark. Every child knows the menace of a dropped apostrophe. The parents don't do that. Shifting into the more slowly enunciated, do not do that. Don't do that gives you another meaning. Don't do that. It is a command. And do not do that. It is not so commanding sentence, but do not do that. It is the sound gets reduced here, the sound gets lowers here, and it is not seems to be a command. And every believer, the ignominy of having his faith reduced to faith. Then add an exclamation point, to be or not to be, and the gloomy Dane has all the resolve he needs. Add a comma, and the noble sobriety of God save the Queen becomes a cry of desperation bordering on double sacrilege. And every believer, the ignominy of having his faith reduced to faith, that is a disgraceful action, disgraceful conduct, that his faith, the disgraceful conduct that his faith, the faith in the religion or faith in God or faith in anything, just get reduced to the word faith, that it is no longer connected to the person. For him, for him the word, the faith comes becomes just as a word faith when adding the punctuations. Add an exclamation point to be or not to be. That is the soliloquy of Shakespeare's Hamlet, where Hamlet, the protagonist, is himself speaking. That soliloquy, and here it says that when an exclamation point is added to that, to be or not to be, here he is contemplating about whether he is to die or not to die, and to be or not to be, whether he has he to do that, not do that. There, when he adds an exclamation point, he gets a resolution. And add a comma, and the noble sobriety of God save the Queen. The kingdom, the queen, actually monarchy follows in Britain. There they always chant in any public functions that God save the Queen, that God is himself God is protecting the Queen. But when a comma is added in between God and save, then it conveys a different meaning. God, please save us, save the queen. Then it can be also a cry of desperation, and also there is a irreverence, that is a double sacrilege to the queen. There is an irreverence also showing that God, please save the queen. A disrespect or a profanity can be seen in when we add can be seen. So adding these punctuation marks actually adding or dropping the punctuation marks actually affects the meaning, actually affects the correct meaning that the person wants to convey. So sometimes, of course, our markings may be simply a matter of aesthetics. Popping in a comma can be like slipping on the necklace that gives an outfit quiet elegance, or like catching the sound of running water that complements as it completes the silence of a Japanese landscape. So he says that sometimes we add comma or sometimes we add punctuations to add aesthetics. To give a more aesthetic effect, you may add punctuations, like how you wear a necklace to match your outfit, or how you capture the voice, the sound of running water or water flows, that may add beauty to the picture, that may add beauty to the waterfalls when catching the sound. Also, when you see a waterfall, the sound of the flow waterfalls also attract you, that adds the beauty of the running water. And as it completes, it can also be like the silence of a Japanese landscape. And he already exalted Japanese and the landscape, how he was attracted to the Japanese landscape, the silence of the Japanese landscape, that I have already talked to you in our introductory session about Pico Iyer. When that you remember that how he shifted from the busy America to the silent Japanese culture. When V.S. Naipaul, in his latest novel, and he is again giving reference to another writer. So earlier he talked about H.W. Fowler, then you talked about Tom Wolfe, and now the reference of next writer, that is V.S. Naipaul. When V.S. Naipaul, in his latest novel, writes, he was a middle-aged man with glasses. The first comma can seem a little precious, yet it gives the description a spin as well as a subtlety, or maybe a nuance about, or a meaning, a different sort of meaning. Or we may just get a confusion that what is the meaning that he is referring to when by adding a comma. Without a comma, it would be like this: he was a middle-aged man with glasses, he wears glasses, that's it. But when he added comma in between, it gives a different meaning, that we come to know, or we realize that these glasses have some particular connection with the person, in particular connection with the story as such. Okay, yet it gives the description a spin as well as a subtlety that it otherwise lacks, and it shows that glasses are not part of the middle-agedness but something else it is showing. Thus, all these tiny scratches give us breadth and heft and depth. All these tiny scratches, commas or periods or semicolons, give us breadth, and heft means a large or a varied meaning, or depth of meaning. Feelings can be compared, feelings can be conveyed. A world that is only periods, that means a word has only full stops without other punctuation marks like comma and semicolons. It's a world without inflections. It's a world without any rhythm, any music. It's a world without shade. It's a world without any coolness. A dry period, a dry world. It has a music without sharps and flats. A music should be where you have to, the rhythm should be there, then only it is soothes your ears. But a world without periods, it's like a music without any its precise qualities without sharps and flats. It's a martial music. If it's a world is only has spirits, it is like martial music. It is like military music where you have a sharp and strict rhythm. You have a sharp and strict rhythm where it is more organized. It is more, the how the military music will go, how the military, the army people march according to the music. It is a certain sharp music without any bends or curves. They move in a structured and organized way. They move only in a specific way. It is not always soothing to hear. No, it is really, it gives us a spirit of patriotism, but it is not soothing to ears. No, it has a music without sharps and flats. It is a martial music. It has a jackboot rhythm where they wear their jackboots, boots, and how they march. It has a music like that only, which is so sharp, which is not a soothing thing to ears. It is not a music, we can say music which actually calms us, like that. But the jackboot music, it is not something that calms us or something which soothes us. Then punctuation marks helps us to move in a rhythmic way. It helps us to convey our feelings. Then it's a martial music. It has a jackboot rhythm. Words cannot bend and curve. Jackboot music, that's words or music is not bending or curving, which adds the quality of the music. It goes in a straight way. Like that, it would be like that if a word only has periods without any punctuations. A comma by comparison catches the gentle drift of the mind and thought. What does comma do? Comma actually helps us to write our words with the write our words, that helps us to convey our feelings also. It also helps the reader to identify the flow of the mind of the author in thought, turning in on itself and back on itself, reversing, redoubling, and returning along the course of its own sweet river music. Turning a comma by comparison catches the gentle drift of the mind in thought, turning in on itself, back on itself, reversing, redoubling, returning along the course of its own sweet river music. River, is it actually like thoughts? How river flows, like that thought moves with the help of the commas in the paper. While the semicolon brings clauses and thoughts together with all the silent discretion of a hostess arranging guests around her dinner table. And here he is comparing semicolon to a hostess, and how a hostess arranges the guest in silently in the dining table. Like that, semicolon also arranges the sentences in a good way, in ordered way, in a structured way, which also helps to, which also asks us to stop somewhere, then actually ask us to slowly begin with the other clause, like that. So without punctuations, a world is like, without punctuations, words are like martial music, only which doesn't curve or bend, just go in a straight way, and feelings can't be conveyed. That is about this paragraph. We are moving towards the last paragraph. Punctuation then is a matter of care. It's care for words, yes, but also and more important for what the words actually implies, what the word actually carries, how what the words actually means. Only a lover notices the small things. Lovers notices the small things. The way the afternoon light catches the nape of her neck, or how a strand of hair slips out from behind an ear. Everything to a lover is some sort of, they are in a dream world. You may be feeling that. Everything for a lover, when lovers are together, everything, it's kind everything of the other person, it's like good. Even their small moments, for small little things they do, it would amuse you. The small, even a hair that is, even everything amuses each other when lovers are together. A lover notices the small things, the way the afternoon light catches the nape of a neck, or how a strand of hair slips out from behind an ear, or the way a finger curls around a cup. And no one scans a letter so closely as a lover. And he's also saying that it was a time, Pico Iyer was born in 1957, and no, lovers, when they exchange letters, now we don't have love letters and all, everything is through WhatsApp only. But when love letters were there, at the time of love letters, lovers would scrutinize the letters, love letters, and they will try to understand the meaning of each and every letters, every words, like that. Lovers searching for its small print, straining to hear its nuances, its gasp, its sighs and hesitations, poring over the secret messages that lie in every cadence. Lovers would closely examine their love letters. The difference between Jane, in brackets, whom I adore, and Jane, whom I adore, marks all distance between ecstasy and heartache. Oh, I missed one. The difference between Jane, whom I adore, and Jane, comma, whom I adore, and the difference between them both and Jane, whom I adore, marks all the distance between ecstasy and heartache. The way the words that are expressed in the letters marks the difference. When punctuations are added, it shows another meaning. Without punctuations, it shows another meaning. That closeness can be conveyed by the use of punctuations. And the last sentence: no iron can pierce the heart with such force as a period put at just the right place. In Isaac Babel's lovely words, a comma: no iron can pierce the heart with such a force as a period put at just the right place, in Isaac Babel's lovely words. Isaac Babel is a Russian writer, and he says that no iron can pierce the heart. Iron can pierce the heart, but a period, a full stop in a letter, that pierces more than an iron rod. The period, the full stop, has such an impact on a person. Maybe in a full stop, maybe the person can actually stop the relationship. That's why he's saying a full stop has such a force more than the iron rod can do to a heart. And when this full stop put at just the right place, then this comma can let us hear a voice break or a heart. A comma can let us hear a voice break, even though a comma used for a pause to take a breath. A comma can let us hear a voice break. There is a pause there when a comma comes. It allows us to breathe. There is a voice break there. At the same time, also, a comma can let us hear a heart break in through the letters when emotions are conveyed. Punctuation, in fact, is a labor of love, which brings us back in a way to God's. Punctuation, in fact, is a labor of love that is always need to work, but with nothing is getting back. Every time it is not getting, all the time it is not getting the apt respect for it needs. Is actually humanizing, no humanizing the punctuations. Punctuation, in fact, is a labor of love, just working without nothing in return. That's why it is labor of love, and which brings us back in a way to God's. uh, Gods also do marvelous thing. We believe, as a religion person, what do they believe? God's created this world. So like that also, punctuation, he's comparing punctuations to God again. Punctuation does a great job, and their purpose is very great in words. They help us to convey the meanings, the feelings, but it is not getting any respect. Nothing is, they are getting nothing in return. So that's it about our essay. In Praise of the Humble Comma is a very interesting poetic account of the need for proper punctuation in our sentences. Besides the grammatical function, essay brings out the emotional and psychological need of proper punctuation, isn't it? In a comic vein, he compares the comma to God, in that both give you breath. The essay illustrates how meaning is enriched and how meaning can be altered, or even meaning can be subverted by this humble comma. So I think you have understood the essay. So Pico Iyer's work is quite humorous and full of irony, and the author approaches the importance of punctuation, that it is very much necessary in our writings. And what do? They give us a natural flow to a meaning, natural flow to the words, a rhythm, and it adds rhythm to our sentences, and it also helps us to express the right meaning or right ideas. And these examples that he is using, or example of God that he is using, it really catches the audience attention. Without comma, actually without comma, the complex sentences would be very hard to interpret. The run-on sentences, we may not get the correct meaning if commas are not there or punctuations are not there. We may not be able to get the correct meaning. English would still be a very long line of run-on sentences, but comma which holds the written languages together. And Iyer gives both direct and indirect examples to make us understand about the importance of comma, or importance of such a big tools, or importance of the scratches that he mentions. And through metaphoric language, the real world applications, and proper use of grammar, Iyer has succeeded in a way. Iyer has succeeded in creating this thought-provoking essay, and spoke about it as a labor of love. It keeps the law and order in the society, and he uses imagery, he uses comparisons, and he actually personifies. Then yeah, he actually conveys his ideas more humorously, and he reinforces his idea that we and another idea is also he is giving that in order to achieve many things, or in order to in order to achieve your heights, you have to take care of these small things. Actually, these small things, if you have to take care of very small minute things, then micro things we need to take care of. The commas, even though we feel it is a very small, but it is what highlighting the text. It has a very major function, but still it remains to be very humble, with neglected by everybody. So we will start with our next essay in our next class. So happy learning.